whatever, abusive or whatever for you to become Muslim and hate your parents is no problem, okay? Because maybe you hated them before Islam, okay? But now if your parents raised you in a fashion, raised you to be a good person, encouraging you to do right and so, and even were happy with you when you became Muslim and helped you and all these different things, for you to turn around and to say, well, you should hate that person. It's very difficult, brother. I would say, let me finish, brother. No, I'm saying, brother, what I'm saying is that there is a biological aspect of love which Islam does not require be destroyed. That biological aspect, which is the natural product of that relationship of family, that much of it may remain. However, in terms of how we look at the person, in terms of obedience to Allah, because this is the ultimate now expression of love. That ultimate expression of love, this now belongs only to Islam, to Allah, to the Prophet of Allah, to the believers. That if our parents ask us to do something which goes against what Allah has commanded, then we do not follow what they have asked. So our love does not go beyond that basic biological level and now enter into the realms of our actions where Allah's commands govern. This is what I would suggest. Yeah, this is what I would suggest. This is really what the intent is, you know, and not the biological, because when we get into the area of the biological, I said, you know, there are certain things which exist. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you know, sought to pray for his mother, right, who he knew died in disbelief. His love for her had him seek to pray. Allah prohibited him from praying for her. So that love had to stay at that level and not exceed the bounds which Allah had set. So there was something biological there, which was expressed in his desire to pray for his mother.
So
but yes, this is where, yes.
Looking at the whole nation of those who are attacking Islam everywhere and killing our brothers, and say we might love them and hate their behavior. It will mix up in our, you know.
I think the point is to make. We have to get back on track.
Anyway, inshallah, I think our point is.
Friday, when you have someone who sticks to you while you're praying, okay, and he's disturbing you, doing something else, like putting his nose aside and putting his hand inside his ear, you know, playing, yeah, like that. Okay, well, I looked up that matter and I came up with something. It is okay, to let him know, to correct him, but you have to have two things.
During the prayer?
During the prayer. No. Even if, no matter if it is optional or obligatory, compulsory prayer, okay? So it is okay. But do it gently, smoothly, and you have to know, you have to be sure that he will accept it from you. Because if he is disobedient, or he might be bigger than you, taller than you, more powerful, he won't accept it, from you, don't do it. Okay, don't do it. Because what's the benefit out of that? If you do it smoothly, you have to be sure that you accept it.
In other words, if you feel doubt, if the person next to you is, fidgeting in his prayer, etc., and you feel doubt about him accepting your advice, which would happen during the prayer, wherein you stop him, because with what it came up, actually you weren't there, brother, but what was suggested, or the question arose, if a person was carrying on like this, maybe playing with his fingernails or whatever, could you, in your prayer, in the course of your prayer, then take his hand and put it back, just gently stop his actions in that way? Is this allowable?
In the days of Prophet Muhammad somebody sneezed, and an ignorant man, he didn't know that in Salah we shouldn't nishamit and say Yarhamukallah. So he said Yarhamukallah. All the Sahaba kept hitting their thighs, telling them to shut up during Salah. He looked at them and, why are you doing this to me? Please. They kept, hitting their thighs more and more and louder and louder. لا أم لك. And they forgot about him until he finished Salah. Prophet Muhammad got him and he told him that in Salah we should not, say anything strange or away from Salah. And he referred to that in one of the hadith saying, بِأَبِي هُوَ وَأُمِّي مَا رَأَيْتُ مُعَلِّمًا أَحْسَنَ مِنْهُ. I never saw a teacher better than him. مَا كَهَرَنِي وَلَا نَهَرَنِي. He did not shout at me, he did not reproach me for this. But he just very kindly and calmly told me that you shouldn't do this. And his Salah was accepted. So this is an example showing that in Salah, if you can't keep on concentrating on Salah because of this behavior, you might do it. And usually you don't know if he will accept or not, but you do it the first time. If it reminds him and he stops,
fine.
Okay. If not, you're not late.
Sure. What about the hadith you were going to read, a Muslim? Okay.
I do have a question. If we're finished with the subject we were dealing with. This is in reference to the khutbah question. When we first began to translate for us, it said that the general principle within Islam, or basic principle within Islam, that knowledge precedes faith. And in reference to that statement, my question is, when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going to the cave of Hira, what knowledge did he know? When the Sahaabah, when the people who listened to him, when he first came to his wife Khadijah, and the others, when he first came to him, and presented what he understood from him, what he believed in, what knowledge did they have that they accepted what he was telling them? What was the knowledge? Was it knowledge or was it faith? Was it faith based on what they saw in his character? And that they believe this man to truly be a religious person, a holy person? Or did they have, when you utilize the word knowledge, what comes to my mind is that someone had a book to read, or that someone had, there was a school teaching fiqh, or whatever the case may be. And through learning this, achieving this knowledge from another teacher or something, it in turn increased their faith. But during that particular period, in some instances even today, from what I understand, there's, knowledge is very limited in many societies. There are still places today where Muslims are virtually nil. I mean, there are Muslims in Beijing who are not losing faith, but what knowledge do they have that eventually their situation is going to turn around? So if you could define that a little bit, clarify that, it would be helpful.
Well, you see, if we consider that the Prophet's father and mother were idol worshippers, his uncles and relatives around him were all idol worshippers, okay? He had to make a conscious decision not to worship idols. That God, Allah, was not in these idols that were being worshipped, but was beyond these idols and choose not to worship the idol. He had to, this is a conscious, mental decision based on some knowledge. This is not emotion now. Emotionally speaking, he would have been caught up in idol worship because his family was doing it, everybody else was doing it. For him to break out of that and to choose to worship only one God, this involved a point of knowledge. Of knowledge of which may come. See, knowledge may not always come from a written book. It may come through reflection. It may come from you sitting here and looking at the situation, subjectively, objectively as opposed to subjectively. Looking at the situation, adding it all up and say, well, this doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. This, just like you find amongst Christians, some people who have rejected the worship of Jesus. From analyzing the situation, looking at what the prophets brought with before, what was Jesus actually saying, what is the church saying, and so on and so, they choose out of it after reflection that this is really the correct way. This is correct. That is knowledge. On the basis of that knowledge, they can find Allah. But on the basis of emotion, as I'm talking about the difference between knowledge really and emotion. Right? That faith must come